working on that lab. I mean, for all 3 hours, really. You know, depending on how it goes, we might add some stretch goals as we go, but you know, we'll kind of play that part by ear. Was anybody not here last class? Just okay. I'll briefly go through the lab just as like a reminder. You know, set some context, make sure everybody's on the same page, and then we'll just dive into it. You know, last class we were talking about APIs. You know, when we say API, when we hear API, especially in web development, generally what people mean when they say that is an HTTP API. How do we interact with somebody over using HTTP or using AJAX, right? And those are things like the Twitter API and the Open Weather Map API and the Facebook API, all those things. The ways of getting external data into our application. Or, as we're going to find out in this lab, it's ways of communicating with our backend developers. You know, so our backend developers create some sort of HTTP server, and it's our job to write front-end code or JavaScript codes that can interact with that server. And so that's really what this lab is about. We're going to be creating this application called Feeder. I'll post this link again in Slack just so everybody has it. If you were here last class, then you probably already have this forked and everything. But if you were not, you'll need to fork this because this is how we're going to be working on the lab. We're creating this application called Feeder, and what it is it's a news aggregator application. And we've been given two things. We've been given a front-end mock from another front-end developer who's given us basically non-functional HTML and CSS. So we know what the site's supposed to look like. It's just the version that we've been handed is not functional. So we need to make it functional by writing JavaScript. We've also given API documentation, which is this, this file here. And this tells us, you know, what are the available endpoints, you know, HTTP request method and path combinations. So what are those, what are the endpoints, you know, what query parameters do they need, and what JSON responses or what query parameters or request bodies, this request body, do they need, and then what parameters do we get back, JSON bodies do we get back. And so we need to take these two pieces and put them together and create a functional app by writing JavaScript. And I mentioned, you know, if this seems a bit daunting, you know, you can take this and break it down into chunks. The first chunk might be, okay, let's just create some templates that has the ability to create this, this HTML that we see in the mock. So how can we write some templates that have the ability to do this? Right? Get rid of the duplication in our HTML by creating some templates. And then we might say, okay, I see what the APIs, the HTTP API, I see what they're going to return. How can we create a model in our JavaScript that looks sort of like, or exactly like this, this HTTP response, like that JSON response. So we can construct a model in our application. And then finally, we need to, you know, actually create our controller that hooks up all the event listeners and makes those AJAX requests to populate that model that we've created. Okay, so really, you know, we can break it down into those steps. And those steps can be broken down further. Like maybe you just worry about, you know, how do I do the categories template and show those categories at the top, or how do I just do an article template and show those articles where they are. And just as a quick review, there is a link here for a working version of this. You know, I would ask that you don't look at the code, you know, view the source of this page and see how it works. But you can come here and play with it just to see how it's supposed to work. Basically, you can log in. It's just usernames, no password. You hit login, and then it's going to show you some categories, and you'll have the ability to toggle those categories. It looks like my New York Times articles have disappeared. But in any case, they're still articles. My key must have expired or something. In any case, you can do this, and then also you can click on these articles to bookmark them. And what really makes this cool is you can refresh and log in again, and those categories that you've selected and the bookmarks that you selected should persist each time you come back to this. Okay. Also, you'll need to, in order to get this working, you'll have to follow these steps. We did this in class on Thursday, but if you haven't yet done this, you'll need to do these steps here under setup in order to get this working. You're going to be running the server locally on your computer. And also, even if you were here last class, you will need to start the server, node feeder server.js, in a terminal tab in order to make it start working. Okay, are there any questions before we just dive into this? Yeah. Mm-hmm. No. So, if are you saying like if you create a new user?
Yeah, like say I just created a new user post as categories.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, categories.
There shouldn't be any when you create a new user. That should be, the category should be actually. Sorry, there's a difference between categories. Categories are all of the things that are available, all the potential categories, and the interests are per user, right? So the interests map to categories. So when a user selects one of those things, what you're really updating are their interests. Exactly, and then you can update your categories, and I'll show you which ones have been selected or not. So you'll have to experiment with these APIs. Maybe you could do it using curl or some other technique to experiment with the APIs and see how they work. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So where was that the server coming from?
This pre-made one or this one is, there's a link to it in the repository. There's like a working version. But when you're going to be working on this locally, you're going to actually run the server from your terminal.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, there's setup instructions here. You fork the repository, and the repository has the server code in there. And so you're just going to run it by typing node and then the name of the server file. Yep, you can do that. You're going to be running it right on your computer. Okay, so if you weren't here last class and you have trouble setting up, let me know. Everybody else, get started. Again, you're going to have to play with these APIs to see how they work. Probably, but start with those smaller chunks. Start with the templating. Start with the creating the model, and then finally, eventually, you'll tie in the actual data. Also, don't hesitate to ask your neighbors for questions and work with them and bounce ideas off of people. Coding is very rarely a solo sport. So to clarify, I think you would figure this out a little bit, but when you are a user, you update your interests, and then when you use those as categories, you update it from your model. So the categories, yeah, right.
run the data though?
No, 'cause I mean, I guess you could change back and forth with trees like what they want us to use.
It's run the model,
Yeah.
and then we add a event list.
Yeah, exactly. But you'll need to like
The
update
ID
the
of
line.
the label you're looking at, like the sequence to the article, you know, then just like otherwise.
Data that looks like it's on the
We
system,
gotta change
then
the
we're not
class
actually
of it
making
so
the
it goes
rejection
with
cuts yet, just as a way to start developing the
Well, you
UI.
can just do
And
something,
then,
you know, like add this class.
and
Yeah.
then
And yes, I can do all of that without templating it too.
Just, oh my god, I don't template. Template, okay?
No, I'm pretty sure you specifically asked that we have to.
So you'd like us to create two templates, one for the articles and then another template for the.
I'm suggesting that would be one way of doing it. I don't want, give it to 3 different developers, you'll have 3 different solutions.
How do you template
It would be easy, you just do a JavaScript object that would say selected or not for the label. And then if on that object were Boolean true or false, you could template it. He did it in one of his very first templating examples.
I wasn't.
Yeah, look back at previous examples. I post solutions. Also, if you just navigate through the GitHub repo, you can find solutions to previous exercises. But generally speaking, you can do conditionals and templates. We haven't done this in class, but you can do loops and templates, and all kinds of stuff.
Oh dear God, no.
So,
Well, there's that handles. Now that I'm register helpers.
yeah, you definitely won't need those to do this assignment, but yeah.
It's mostly data.
I mean, it's up to you. If you want to play around with this,
You can. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make just a simple. Yeah, like mini JSON. Yeah, like that way data. Yeah, like because he did that before.
It's just a good way to start off.
You know.
It's
Like here, like there, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I started with that, but
Yeah, that's perfect. With your articles that you did one
actually
article.
later on,
It's better than that. So,
No,
don't.
Where'd you get that? What's
I think it was literally
maybe I went to the sources. Yeah, I'm just gonna take syntax builds too. So there are, and then I'll just mark one part. Title. Source.
Maybe, yeah, maybe we could also do yeah, yeah. Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, let me know if it's really great.
So you have to do it for bookmark or not? You have to do it for like additional.
Yeah.
So you can capture and save it.
Yeah, if bookmarks show. But the thing is, does he want to
See, like
display
this.
bookmarks in a separate?
Like I did. It says if bookmarked, display the bookmark.
Yeah. The audio behind it, that was. That's JavaScript today, basically. Yeah, all of them are, it's like, you just like these things. It's highly wordy. I know, but that's how JavaScript works. I mean, unless you're smart enough to create your own framework. Maybe you are.
No. What makes you think I'm smart at all? So I'm not smart at all. This is a false narrative. Oh, you gave us.
Jacob, I noticed that the
Yeah.
ID is not present in the in like the mock, like you don't put it as an ID class or anywhere. ID.
Yeah.
It's not in the mock-up, right? Or did you put it as one?
Well, I mean, that's up to you. You can put it anywhere.
I think I put it here. I just need to test it.
Yeah.
Well, what is the value of the ID of the number?
So this is probably like that.
Can you just put it in there but hide it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Oh,
And for now, I just wanted to I'm really serious.
So I'll tell you a strategy for how developers used to do this is they use a custom attributes.
Yeah.
So this is how article has like the article element as a class. And you could have a custom attribute, and the custom attributes are usually prefixed with data. So you could say data dash ID or something like that. But it wouldn't be like a class. You know, it's just an attribute. It's gonna be like
No, ID, no. Article equals.
yeah.
Something like
But generally, so best practice here, if you're doing this strategy, you actually don't have to, but if you're doing it, would be to prefix it with data dash.
data, okay.
So article would not be like article, it would be data dash.
Oh, data, okay, not data.
Because that shows something else, that this is a custom attribute, it's not actually relational. And
I was just exposing the IT. Because I wanted to see make sure that it's because I think we need the IT, right?
probably,
Yeah.
That's
and just like, because you know, you might figure this out. It's going to be easier for you. Custom attributes. Because then you're find it there.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you for that.
The article ID.
Yeah, just they have article like it's part of the API. So it's article ID. Yeah, exactly. Like you need a G.
Well, if you look at some of the other endpoints, for instance, like bookmarking, right? You need the ID in order to bookmark it.
I do like seeing that. So that's why. Yeah.
We don't have to modify any of the JSON files, just, right? Like they were saying, you're just using JSON files inside our server as a way to.
Right. No.
store
Yeah.
data.
Exactly. It's a poor man's database. Yeah. You shouldn't be modifying this.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
avatar template.
It will, when you call the model, just say, it do it for you. Yeah, so, yeah.
Like articles.
Well, so basically, what we're gonna do is the opening default control operator, right? Then I say, hey, click on this, and you add that also, it's going to become this fetch all articles that are tagged as
First thing.
Yeah, not
You
book wrong, but they
can
have the
start
same.
your HTML file. So don't even dive into the yet. So go into your HTML. So
Would have the same
now
time.
we have
That counts.
regular,
And then we add the
this is template.
I
So
don't know, that functionality.
thinking back to something else.
Yeah,
You're really back.
Is that cover the bookmarks? How do we see what we
This Jacob was really good.
So somehow you have to push it.
And
Oh, yeah.
You gotta save it.
Mm-hmm.
And
you
work,
do
yeah.
that
It's,
basically calling
Oh, that is
that
so lame.
JSON.
Yeah.
It's like the way at the bottom of the.
Oh, I'm just thinking about how they actually did this.
Or maybe I did last week.
If you open up the feeder server, like this gives you exactly how to
I'm gonna eject script tag.
So
Okay, yeah, so add in the handle.
he's loading the
Then
articles.
script tag, and then start with your first one. What's
He's
the
just
name of
grabbing.
the categories? Like,
It's not
categories of work. Think about how you might.
Like, look, he's just requiring.
How the categories will appear. I don't know what that means for articles. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's throwing it in the JSON file, so basically what an API request is just a request to
Yeah, that's what
yourself,
we do this one.
which you could shortcut by just reading the file itself instead of, we don't need
What?
to see what you've done now with this server. Now that I'm not really tired and I looked at it, these aren't true APIs.
Would that?
You're faking it. You're just storing all the data in the JSON file. So theoretically, you don't even need the API. You could just write and read from the
You
JSON file.
you can't, not from a browser. There's no way to do that from the browser.
But if you serve up the Exchange server, well then I guess you do need to serve.
There's no way from the browser to write or read from a file system.
Oh, I guess I was thinking about it like from the perspective of my node server.
Correct. So that's why you need, exactly, that's why you need APIs, because you have to communicate with something that's running on the file system.
Yeah, like whether or not it's gonna actually filter, that probably, yeah. Well, I mean, you just have to add in another functionality, right? But,
And for these guys, they're upgrading us with that.
you just adjust, I mean, I can just adjust it, right? Like, the HTML that he has in there is going to help.
Oh, are you adjustments?
So you're like, oh, okay, like, he has.
So,
Okay, let me call my wife.
And then you the tables or something, and then this, instead of having to, you know.
So
Yeah,
you have an
so like,
example.
just there. Because right now, it looks like he has a every single part of that loads, so that didn't happen.
And that function that doesn't have like
Format. So that, obviously, the source.
the render function. So we just have to create a title, so
Content.
yeah, we would say
We adjust
template source,
that makes sense. Sort of, okay. Yeah, so did you add, yeah. So basically, so that it's like, so
This
this
is
like,
fascinating.
so like, here's a good example, our business, if you put it here, when you're seeing articles, like, right now.
this one,
Yeah.
whatever
Like, they have documenting this structure.
literally replaces
So things that are often issues that they count as like opportunities.
I called the.
And you can always just do it on property. Yeah,
Exactly, things that are gonna be, things that are going to show up in every single one of those posts, like when you're looking at here. Okay, so structure's the same for all of them, so this,
No, you don't.
And then the.
all of those
That's the survey.
items. And then when you write your JavaScript, you'll actually use the.
Yes, you should, as long as it's in the same.
You don't need to do that part yet.
Yeah.
Some of them
Yes,
say-
Oh, no, you're right.
Set it up there, so you're not calling.
Yeah.
You would need to make, so you, yeah, exactly, so you're making a template for how you're. So you're not posting all of these data together, you're just thinking,
Yeah.
okay, the way that Indian musical system title works.
The source is.
Title. So you'll
Or you store it.
make like a class title in HTML, but in your JavaScript, it's going to say, okay, like I want you to look over the
Okay.
yeah, call in whatever the title is,
Okay.
to pull up that information. Right now, it's not being rendered dynamically, it's just, it's HTML. Yeah. So yeah, the first step is definitely starting, kind of taking his HTML and then templating that. Sort of investing it. And from here too, like, you're not gonna be able to template this entire page with like, you'll need template for articles, you'll need a separate template here.
Yeah.
Separate template. So those will be three different templates that you'll use to inject information into.
Yeah. You just like that. I know it's not first step.
Or I guess not.
No, you don't need the class title. What you do need is when you're adding in those bar tags and the double brackets, you need to have that, like whatever you call it, called articles. Like article title, you need to have that match with JavaScript.
Like I do a bunch of emails.
Oh, very good.
And then the number find this
Yeah.
in HTML.
Oh,
Yeah,
the last
HTML.
20%.
Yeah, you'll call
Especially
it
when, especially when email,
whatever
whatever
you
it does.
call classes in your JavaScript later when you're in the classes. But right now,
Yeah.
it's also, so you don't need to worry about it.
We just create a controller that. Just
Yeah, no problem.
all the
Yeah.
articles on initial.
Yes. You can do that to the rewrite.
Right.
To do the for you want, you're supposed to do that in the view,
Do which part?
to load all the articles.
Well, where, so what is the view's job?
These are just a load.
The template.
To render a template.
To render.
It is
Sorry,
the
that's
view's job. So Ajax falls very much outside of the view's purview.
Okay. I was looking at it earlier, I guess. That's how you done it. So I'm guessing
I just go, use just randomly, data manipulations.
Data display, really, but yeah.
Yeah. Tomato, tomato.
If you look at the article API, the one for the feed, you'll notice that it requires user ID. Just,
They always require user ID.
That's something.
The APIs workshop, I guess the thing about it.
So it'd be like, now you can build all the APIs you need for your part-time class.
Yeah.
Teaching.
I didn't realize that some of them here, essentially, that you had to.
Yeah, I mean, Because the original exercise is like, oh, go find your own.
Well, just dig, or is it dig or actual requires the server to, right?
Yeah, because they're all out.
Yeah.
Which is like, that is so outside of this. So.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I was like, why is that even part of this?
So I'm just waiting. Article 10.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so the render.
And I got still more. Like, are you the same sources? I'm like, I don't know, are they the same sources that we use? And that's like, okay, take it.
Just got,
I think, yeah, I think my New York Times.
We have to call it outside.
New York Times one?
Yeah, because I've been using the same piece, everybody has the same API, so probably they're like.
And it's probably like,
It's kind of that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was a late, yeah.
what she did last time. I told her this.
Yeah, so if you're like. First of all, that's in common. Models. Right, so you'll pass it on. Inside of so it's the. Yeah. Always good to see like that's not particles.
Oh. How does it translate?
Yeah. And like if I
Yeah,
just
I think it's good. You have to.
So exactly. So
Right, what do you get?
hey, not too hard. Each of my data. So I put we start to square bracket and I just use one bracket to
Sorry, what now?
that's encapsulated in the square bracket. You have two articles.
Yeah.
So each one is a model, right?
So it's saying all of this.
Although, why do you have
Just use that time.
The categories, so we just erase that. Outside, I don't know if that's right.
kind of a new sheets?
Erase that side. It's just categories, because that's the name of the key inside. So as long as you don't have to say like.
From where? I used to do those, I used to do that thing all the time.
That's if you're iterating. Then do this stuff.
Why are they?
Banding that is not
Are you able to render anything using your So I think it's a little bit here. It's not like wow. Just check. So we have to-dos, tempos. Oh,
Yeah. You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't play our JavaScript.
Well, there's still those like save our Sonics just like got together and had to use it.
Because they were also that, they were convinced that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up a quick thing that people may benefit from.
maybe it needs to be sort of says the jQuery function being about each
Like it's most short-sighted. First of all.
yeah, I thought it's all actually. It's not even getting it. Oh, maybe we have to put a data like type. Let's try type. Let's put a for each.
For any of you who are interested in trying to use for loops in your templates instead of doing it in your, say, render function, either could work. Here's a Stack Overflow that explains it pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. So this is like pretty much. How does it know where to sit?
So here's what I got.
We're going to get the index. The index is there.
Somehow we have to call it.
That's the one that really tells it. So the template by itself doesn't have to do it. It's just sitting by itself.
Personalize it, so I
In the index.js,
extra small
you find our render function.
template.
You'll see the last thing we do here is we place the HTML that's created by the template into the div element, the IP.
So it's what I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it only knows because I'm telling it exactly.
So it needs to match, like,
So if you look back
in this first render,
you'll see there's a time bomb show up there. And that's what I'm putting in right now.
So just trying to make basic.
so then we need to do an Ajax
To get the
So you're basically trying to do it right now without an Ajax.
yeah, I'm just trying to get make sure my model, like I'm very basic about baby steps, and then I will go on and try to set it out. So just my insert it, other than that, we'll figure it out.
So all this.
Render it out.
Exactly. And you may want to keep this up.
Exercise you did where
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. But yes, at the end of the day, you won't have any, you'll have very little actual HTML, most of it will be functions.
So maybe on some of the five.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will define it. Articles, categories.
Oh, Sarah, just gonna.
We could try that. But we can make it like easy.
So for each data.
Oh, here. This is Is this weather template?
There you go.
She's struggling.
I've seen class. I have no.
Oh my God, no.
I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
a couple of things.
Now
Probably.
you can ask me a question.
I was gonna, well, I just wanted to get the end of our syntax.
You have the grand song. The fire.
So instead of right here,
Yeah.
This is my template is
Here.
here it is. So what we're doing now is I'm gonna render, so I'm gonna do render articles. Yeah. And then the HTML is gonna be, well, those can change, that's the IT. And it's gonna be. Yeah, but these are specific to you. When I come back.
You never go.
We have the same one as, well, I'm not technically, I'm coding with. This example.
Well, I mean, you said
No.
so I just, now I'm just trying to think of
Yeah.
So when you, back then it's.
We want to have a different template for
Log into
the
user,
user.
so you guys have to get it.
So the load out the tags. Yeah, see, that's why I was I guess he wants us to use that.
There's nothing in it.
Well, we're really just.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do change the application. It's in the future.
Oh, yeah.
These things will be the same,
Yes.
for everybody.
I see.
Those things.
That's why I was like, first.
So.
Yeah, so why isn't it rendering in my?
So those things can change.
Got it, okay, that's why it's. Yeah, I thought it was like these stay static.
Yeah.
Just not.
Yeah. So some of these are weird.
Yeah. So these kind of only the pages in here, but also on what.
Yes, they depend on what interests you have, they depend on articles are available.
So when you walked in, I know I'm so and.
They are, it's all from the categories.
Not to me.
This is like super basic, so I have my renders and this is my output function. I have this, I just want to render these two articles. Yes, there's two articles. I have my model, my templates here.
Yeah, you need
That's where it's outside.
Well, what happens when you render in your browsers?
Oh, there.
Ah, there you go.
Let me see.
But your elements, you
Yeah.
it is, it wasn't getting, this is why I was looking.
So I have, this is my model. Yeah, Curly's.
Yeah,
But
but
I have my. This is the part where I'm stuck.
So, what you should look at,
There's a couple of things.
what information is that? So what information will change, so not. So, first thing that will change, obviously, is the name. These names will change. Other thing that will change is this label.
Well, they're because they're in the.
These are selects. So,
Maybe because
when you, and then other things you look for, you have to script. So you see like basically this span.
I think it's really jumping out at me in HTML.
Probably they have one all, I think that's
Just respectively.
Did you do like one?
current syntax.
That's why I read it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, does that element exist?
Additional zero class.
Yeah.
So it's saying that here, where you say that, okay, if some property is true, show this, class, else show the class. So. One of these, one you can. So that's what we use. Then another thing is that there's not just here, right? It's just article. So then you can have articles. Specifically for this, just these. Oh, maybe because I didn't call article template variable. I need to put it up.
Yeah, that's part of those things, right? There's like, there's also repetition of like the images too.
You put it there, so you're adding
Because you do like
bars.
article, parts of the article.
The triple is a function.
I mean, my recommendation is that the whole article would be sort of from this tag.
No, it's a function.
No, just the notation. So, in my solution, I did this.
Yeah.
This is what goes in.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Right, yeah. But if you refresh the feeds, right, then you have articles to change, so you need to rewrite that.
So you need to function.
I'm saying,
What's that? It's like not even moving. So I made it this far,
okay,
taking my game up, and then I blacked out everything, so there's so sort of, that was just filler stuff, right? So I made a little template.
Oh, you don't actually ever run the setup function in Product.
oh,
So that all my
You should
stuff
call
was
it
set.
setup function.
I got that too.
Yeah.
Right there, article here, that's all right.
Even
Even if it's a document. goes
No,
there.
document setup
I
function.
pulled into the article,
You said,
although I was
That's what
kind of just
your-
putting.
the document you're already in.
Yeah, that's perfect. But I did wrap everything in document grid.
I tried to
I thought
use.
maybe that would take care of it, so I don't have to write that function. I can write it.
Yeah.
But then.
So
I
here,
feel like
oh,
this
you're
is
right,
not
okay. I
right.
had it. Okay, let me try that.
Looks right, I mean, so long as you do have some quick name.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
The game was in
so-
this section, so it's like way up here. Do I need to take that back down?
No, that should be fine.
So am I not,
Right.
then in my controller, do I need to call the articles?
Well, let's go ahead, I mean,
Obviously,
let's save this and then, I mean, yeah, so you're calling this render.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Well, I hadn't.
so go ahead and save this, and
Oh,
then let's try to use our debugging prompts to figure out what's going on.
So basically, nothing exists right now.
Okay, so right click and go to the inspector.
So what's article not defined? It's because it's on another,
So it's not even letting me out.
Yeah, so and the reason is,
No,
is
let me
because
just-
you're going to, you're opening it as a file instead of going to localhost 3010.
So I went,
So instead of that, just go to localhost.
Template does not
You
function.
have the server, right?
yeah.
You can erase like all of that.
That's-
Perfect.
Okay.
So you can just erase everything that's there. and go to
So-
localhost 3010. That's it. Okay, now we've got some errors.
Problem.
So can't find apps.js. Is that right?
But what I would do is this arrow back in the model in a document doc ready function.
Okay.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
So then I take this here and just put it up.
Yeah. So I would do that first. Then
I don't know why it says templates is not.
Oh, yeah.
what line is it called?
31.
Yeah, that was a double. See how ready opens dependency? And ask that function.
If you remember article,
See. No, this one.
Oh, because
Yeah.
the way you're calling it, instead of calling it like an event listener, you're calling it a function where you're giving it parameters where you need to instead call it with like the $sign in parentheses, call the article template,
oh,
and then .html, so that you're actually rendering the article template HTML instead.
okay.
Wait, you're doing, I was trying to match this, it wasn't weather and the
So-
other one. So should article be matching?
And these things just copy up.
So
Let's
let's
say
say article.
Yeah, that would work.
Our template, we did this,
Yeah, so,
and then he did a separate function here, which is what I'm trying to do. And then he had this document ready function, and it rendered with it.
Why should that not be?
I think that's. So I don't think you need to do that,
That
because
should be.
there's not,
I guess it is.
the way this is functioning, it's not functioning with one template. It's functioning with multiple
I don't know, it's
templates.
the big one.
So, I don't think, I think what we have.
So.
So like here, in the document ready function.
Go ahead and open
The same thing.
It's far too.
Yeah,
So.
so-
Right. Find it. It's almost the things. Yeah, for the border, but it's not capitalized. So what we need to do, we need to see is this line getting called beforehand. So can I go to it?
Oh, so it has to
So
be
this,
the end
this
of
is the line,
the
right
article.
here, remember, this is supposed to
And
come
then-
before.
Oh,
So we need to, yeah. Okay,
What are you calling the, right?
that's what I'm gonna step over this.
I was just trying.
So you're calling, it's okay. You're calling the function here and storing it. Here is where your event listeners, right? So you want to put the event listener in your like document.ready set
Okay.
function.
Okay.
So you're gonna put all of your different templates within that setup function. So you don't need to run this, do it right the first time. You do when you get to the end here, you'll run
I think
this
this
like
is, might be. a
setup
little
function.
more
So once you create the
nefarious.
setup
I think
function that
it might be
contains
the
the
same
event listener,
those
then
HTML tags
Yeah.
and index. HTML.
I've documented.
so you just do like function. You don't need to do it, do document.ready at the top, grab that, the model, so that's still good.
Okay.
So now what I would do on there is do like function setup and have the brackets.
So which one is this supposed to? Okay.
And then have your event listener there. So that should work.
That's the event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
And then,
I think that's right now. And then when you make a template, for your categories, you'll have that. That function.
So I think there.
what should I call inside HTML?
So
R2
so that's what I want on, you should see it, where it should be function.
Well, what do you,
Yeah.
This is to render
Because
this.
that function. in there.
color and or
So now we go. let's see.
Is that it?
Well, he created this function, this
So,
but
Because it just gets.
That's that, 20.
Yeah, we have gotten to like some other than. So once you.
No, I was just saying, I just saying.
Whatever, call it this article, I guess.
Oh, wait. Is it this?
This article,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just article. What it will eventually form is your like on click, like, and then you comma the parameter for your handler. Once you start adding JavaScript in the article,
Exactly.
now.
Right, and your template wants a single one of those.
so I need to put it at 0.
Yeah, you can do that, you can just render one of them. Or you can include them.
Okay, so what I loop through them up here.
Yeah, you can throw them and render each one. You could do it either way. For this, or, yeah.
So we right now, sample.
Yeah.
Just to see how that works with this template. We reconfigure this template, I think that part looks okay. The part that I'm a little confused about as well is that as a developer, because there's no JavaScript yet, I don't really know what program there is supposed to be for like.
Your user ID?
Yeah, like in here where, like, right now the parameter just lives in there. So I feel like that's what's why it's not living.
Okay, so in your setup, you want to actually call the render article.
makes sense.
So, because right now, it's this article is a function. So, so when you get this HTML out of it, what you get is a raw template string, right? So it's just here a string. On the next line, when you do handlebars.compile, what does that create? Value type.
This is this is the source of
So when you,
it's taking my template.
and then creating that. So it's not creating the HTML yet. What it's doing is it's creating a function.
Okay, this is training.
Yes, compile creates a function. So article here now is a function. Right? And that function takes in data and returns HTML. Okay, so you're missing a step here. And really this article is probably not actually changing that article. And then on the next line, in that function, on line 27, you can call that article template function and pass it as model there.
Okay. So then it's
I didn't have the I here.
but I have to
Yeah, so, just pass it one. And that's it. That's index one, just the test. And what does that create?
That's it.
Does create something. So this is the raw creation, this is the function that takes in data and the HTML string. Yeah. So this line 27 creates the rendered HTML string.
Isn't that supposed to be here?
No, you want this all in your render function.
So all of my render function.
Yeah.
Okay, so no setup.
To set up your call your render function, that's all it does, it's just call.
Okay. It just called. I don't want to call it because I have everything in Captain document already, so it should work, right?
Well, it has to be called something, you have to call render article. So you could just call it that, yeah.
So shouldn't this be outside?
So on line 27, you're creating this HTML string that's been rendered, but you haven't stored it. You haven't put it in your HTML yet.
Yeah, I see that. That's so I was thinking like, okay, so now what do I do from here? I can put render article.
So that's good, and then just call it, okay? line 27, we need to add a variable there to store the rendered particle.
So var template.
Yeah, I would call it like rendered template. Rendered, yeah. It's actually getting rendered. Okay, and then on the next line, you need to actually put that into HTML onto the page.
So now it's name.
Exactly.
So no, is this right?
Yeah, that's right.
The HTML.
Exactly.
Then that's it.
And then you need to put the rendered
Oh.
HTML. Exactly.
This was in a separate function.
The goal, the view's job is to take the data, pass it through the template, and then put that rendered template into the HTML. So it does all that. Now on line 26, you probably would make that like a local variable too, add a var. Yeah, just that. I mean, whatever.
Zero.
Yeah, for now, because eventually we need to do that.
Yes, so I would add a for each loop here.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's
Yeah.
when you are gonna, there we go. Writing them in this article, better article.
But
If we were, since we want to,
Yeah, I mean, so the setup function we usually use to like, render the initial templates.
Right.
So, what he's done is he's wrapped everything in document ready, so it doesn't need always need that setup function. But in any case, yeah. Well, okay. Got a few little things, but it's.
I know, that's
on the
fine.
page.
That I can do with my eyes closed. It's just this step here. That is,
Does that make more sense now?
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, so because I added a document.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not. So what we can do is.
Yeah.
So you should put that on top.
It's really like.
Oh, no, that's not.
So then, take my
Worry about it.
Yeah.
You should try to put all this in the same function. Yeah, you want to put the document above the data because that data will be loaded. So just I mean, we could try to yeah.
So you're right.
Well, I did the render.
Yeah, so basically you didn't have to remember.
When you're loading your page, are you loading it from the server?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can just use those apps. Oh, no, you can include it because it's just relative to the server.
You know, it's
So you don't have to have the, if you wanted to put something in it, you put HTTP, /localhost,
So what I did was
Okay, alright.
the function
I mean, it's.
stores the article compiled.
Then
Then the template, the user template has the data. And then
is that templates for everything or just for some?
this stuff here is for
I use it. Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's awesome. So you're gonna have to.
Because those are dynamic, based on what articles are available, and based on what interests I have.
Oh, I think you're.
If everything is in person, also I don't have to bring that change with the log, not that you need to create a function. So if I want to check this, I'll show this log.
Okay.
So it's a very, very
Okay,
small.
next one. Stay. Okay.
Okay, right. Well, and then it's a comma. So that's pretty great. Did you look at that? In Slack and posted a Stack Overflow? Because their actual documentation is not as good as their web.
I was gonna say, no, I'm just, they're not.
Oh, but let me see your category list. Is it just a, yeah, okay, so here's what we're for this. But, so, Brenda, did you, there may be some other issues. Did you come up with this? Let's just look at it, then you have this. Oh, you go. At the very bottom. Oh, you need to add a. Like that. Is that so you're closing? So the next thing is, as I do, we actually have two things. There's an ID to phone. Yes. So that could be put out. Yes. So there's a separate categories equal 0. And when you update the interest, if you go to the categories, user is selected. Yeah. So if I give myself a science interest, update my interest in when I load the categories, I will see that science has selected true. So it's a typical function. It's something so silly. So if you use that, was a document ready function property. Oh, is it square? It's the curly. Oh, that needs to be something. Yeah. Oh, look. Yeah. We don't have nothing there. So now it's just a matter of the data. So then you have article. What is the, it's articles or comma. Okay, not sure. Yeah. So me, what you're going to do is you're going to extract all of the portions of this article and that article. So for the image source. Well, in your did you need those things instead of having an actual image? Did you? What is the
name is like section.
Yeah, instead of having in your actual HTML, do you have it? So you have here, yeah. Take a look. You did that documentation. Scroll down really. This way, so this is what articles of marks, stories. So your templates, you know, you should know like scores, 0, eating, probably and then me. So you put one placeholder for under view. And then for now, you can put this, just this example.
Okay, so I can.
This, should this be a string? I do.
Like a string.
Oh, yeah. So those will come, so when you put in there, it's like from that. Yeah. What gets filled in, so like, let's look at my HTML. So if I put it. Okay, maybe that's, yeah. When I put it up, the data crop, I do this. So that I should go in from whatever object you're going to use.
So I'll keep this.
URL. Yeah, well, eventually, yes. But until that accurate data, it's probably just working on are you calling the like scores?
Yeah.
Your
I
ref
was just
tag,
saying
your ActJS, so
like,
it should be under handlebars.
I guess I don't feel like what here is like putting this here, which is better.
Exactly, it's, oh no, right now, you have to it's working on, it's under this now. So we can,
Alright,
then you come to just keep the one basic template for now. That one is no, you want to keep the one with the articles. Right, that's all we actually, so we don't have to do that. What we do is we just make sure we put this dynamic placeholder in the hrefs. Okay. Oh, gotcha. So if we just erase where the link is and put the symbol there, it'll put it exactly like that. And then, and you don't even need to put CD on the outside. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you can do that for any attribute. Because yeah, the says same. So anything that's dynamic, anything that changes, will be now assigned in this. But if it's the same, you can just do it as regular.
I was worried about the image, like putting the template.
Yeah.
The image part, like you take out the whole.
Yeah, and this is almost exactly right, but you need to put the quotes in. So what happens is it's just going to remove that everything inside of the really don't survive. Replace it with an actual value. So it's going to put it right there, directly in that spot. And then here, so that's good. Although you want this key to match up.
Oh, it's
I just come up with like. Relevant.
If you look at, if you look back here, you know what's going to be called.
So this would normally be on like API documentation.
Yeah, this is what you'll see in the documentation. Let's give you like the real keys.
they're fine.
Okay.
And those keys are always going to be the same. So we call this like transform. This object will always be this way. All have those keys. The values are simple. Yeah.
Where's that coming from? Like, so does that mean that those keys are somewhere like server code.
Exactly. That's what's going on. Every time we make a request to that endpoint, when I ask an object, the values will be different.
So you're back here.
You got something in there.
That's interesting.
This one.
Oh, so they have a computer.
Look at this. Find who's
Check your data, make sure it's current.
and find out which things change. Each one have any
You know, you taught me how to use. It's as if it's not enough. Well, try to keep going through it because and delete all the quotations.
Yeah.
So, if you look at this, that's one thing that will change.
Yeah, so.
There's several. So we should use the other sources.
It's the photo partners and just inside of it. Rather than be left with issues. Data to like class. Don't even stage because it's
You know it?
Yeah, you have definitely some.
So I don't.
Do you have any handle
it's a very kind of it's a very how do I say it, like concept of like just how do I refactor this go down to your competitive based off of some
Yeah.
X amount of data. So
Yeah, I know it's
What? Finish the exercise?
no, I ignored that exercise.
Yeah.
I still can't.
It's copy, basically copy my model.
Okay.
It seems to be stopping it.
Yeah. Thinking this works, so it shows here. This, right? And then as soon as it gets here, just.
Okay, and we don't get any errors in there. Okay, let's debug it.
So put it here.
Go ahead and put one on line 44 too. Just to make sure that- On 44, that's right. So 42. So now we're at step 3. Okay, just updating that. Okay. You notice here, so let's just get into some sort of error.
Does it have to be a string?
So,
Oh.
That's not, that was outside of it, right?
well, it could have been right, but you just the conditional was for now it's just a picture. Well, this is just a syntax error. Now it's like that's it.
You could do it all ways. You could do that. So you have a it's pretty much stuff. So you now have to run like 24 to see it. Yay! Yeah. Go girl. Oh boy.
Okay. I should say. So.
Now some of
this-
it.
Yeah, first off. Yeah, you have customized this.
I just literally copied the URL and, in the HTML.
So I've got that by myself. But I did this, so it's possible.
So now, you're on your way to create your new model, like the model for the user.
Okay,
And
so where-
But it,
But
when I
so
went
if you want
here,
to-
so like I actually figured out what he was doing. He was using this to control their index.
I'm gonna try to.
So he was calling,
Yeah, I'm
he was calling the Twitter head here,
Let it here.
call for it here, call for it here.
Put it.
Right, yeah.
I see how you use compiling blocks, so I can get it.
Use that.
Okay. So the first thing I noticed, line 63, you're calling a function.
Yeah, I know, it's up here, it's right here, this is just that, this part is the actual get request.
When you do
It
this.
includes the options, so in this case, it's just tried options here. Which is not accurate because I've changed it to the actual part of the index search just for the sake of prosperity.
Oh, words.
Okay, so then it calls off of these options, so the header.
Try doing
is
one.
That's all successful, and then the response, maybe that's what.
So what's what's happening is this function is being called as soon as your server starts, not when you request it.
Yeah.
Break.
I want to.
Yeah, it is. Here, because it's within this, it's within a level function,
Oh, I see.
so it is. And so here's the response here,
Okay. The indentation there
is awful.
Yeah.
Sorry.
is. Okay, all right, so let's go again. So we're calling the thing and go on back.
This is what it used to be, but I don't care about this, so I commented it out, but rest send was right there, and I remember doing it here, and it worked. So, not sure it's.
So before they had the string, so you got a tweet object. And then in the tweet object, you have statuses. Is your
I have
I
this
see
one
some
of
of
the.
the PM lines. I see my Altoids.
Yeah, this is all the output of the tweets.
So, even if it's the last one.
So here's the last one that happened, because it's sort of meta atmosphere.
Yeah.
We're gonna query, give me a query.
So if you request it in the value, you see this come up.
Yeah, because it happened again here. So this is the first request, and here's the start of the second request. And again, here.
What is the browser say?
Ah,
Didn't send a response. Okay, let me look at your code again. One thing that may be happening, like maybe that res is redefined somewhere, possibly. Go ahead. See that. What else?
so we're really looking for this. This is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead and right before there, put a console log res.
Save.
Yeah.
Reload the server.
It must just have been not saved or something. From if you hadn't refreshed it, because that should have
Obviously.
changed the functionality.
Right. Obviously it works. Okay, cool.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, didn't really do much.
It's the best kind of doing it.
By the way, feel free to come and join us, please. And,
Oh. See now, that's an actual API request, right?
Yeah.
So I don't actually need to service that file. I'm just creating an API inside, so like what, I'll just create a CR for the actual front end. It does the API request.
Exactly. But you will need some sort of like HTML file in order to load that JavaScript.
Right, I already have in a separate Apache server that's doing non-port 3000 stuff,
Okay.
because that's how the server was set up, and I tried modifying, I could serve it, file server fine, obviously I've done it before, but I just didn't want to mess with the server settings after, I already started from the last time, just because I was just like rampaging my way through all these settings and not, so I started
Yeah,
pushing it and leaving it
yeah.
the same.
It'll totally work. However, if you're requesting JSON data from another domain, browsers by default will block that. They don't like you loading JSON data from another domain unless your server sets certain headers on the response that says cross-origin resource sharing.
Yes, I remember that. It is the same domain though.
But ports, if it's a different port, it's still blocked. It doesn't, because it considers a diff with a different port, it knows it's a different application. So, it won't allow it.
So in my response header item,
Exactly. When you respond, if you Google it, it should be really easy to find how to do that in Express.
I would set the response before sending it, of course.
Like before you do send, you would set response headers that
And then I
allow.
would do the allow cross.
Exactly.
I'm sure I can.
Yeah, it's simple. But you'll have to,
I wanna do it for each, so I can set it up. I don't know what parameters I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby steps.
yes. Yeah.
Give us for each now.
What?
We need it for each now.
Okay, do it for each. Like that.
Alright.
Now you need an anonymous function to do the actual for each.
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically exactly right
Here.
No, before you fucking stop and then Tom do that again. Now, you need two parentheses again. No, not separated. Put it right next to the function. We're gonna do the syntax right. There
Okay,
you
sorry, and then.
Space.
How do I say?
Now you need to, now what this is what operates on every content, all items inside the text.
Oh, so I need to put that outside here, this rendered template.
Are you gonna render the template for each article?
Like
Or
it's
should
inside
you
the-
render the, are you sure? Are you 100% positive that's how you wanna do that?
So, but I.
Well, initially, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
So what are you actually trying to do?
I'm trying, so normally,
Because
I have
if
in
you-
here is just one article.
If you compile, okay, if you compile and re-render every single article through via web, how resource intensive is that going to be?
So
Insane.
right now, I'm just testing one article. How do I say render template article to flip here? What should I put in here instead? I want to say, give me all articles right now.
You have just then,
And then say article.
oh, well then, yeah, you should do for you, but only render that, only do that.
And that's what I'm, and then I'm saying,
But you're not calling a function, you're just calling, okay, so that's your template.
So some of the
template and data.
Well, you're only calling one right there. So
Yeah,
it's
I
not first. Well,
you see.
yeah, okay, so that whole thing needs to be inside of where you live.
Okay, that's what I.
Also,
But you
remember
need-
that we have a list of our.
You really know. Yeah. So, yeah, do that, and do an I, not zero, make it a variable.
Clearly.
And then do a for each loop around it. So article for dot for each.
So.
Well, no, you don't need to do
somewhere
that,
you need to
actually.
do a loop in your template. You have to
Let that change. Okay, sounds like it should work. Yeah, I'm just basically trying to get both my articles to appear.
And then.
My title stuff just. That's all.
We'll do it in a for loop since you don't know for each.
I'm trying.
For loops are, resource, they're more resource dependent anyways. Yeah.
Didn't get the title. So as you're changing things, as you're changing things to make things dynamic, they're disappearing. Right? So obviously, it's a keys for the thing that you're passing in. This template aren't matching up with the placeholder. So let's take a look at where you're passing in. So again, when you're doing this, it's rendering all of it, but showing you past ones.
Yeah, I figured that one, but I think it was last one.
Should be right. Yeah.
Maybe
So
I
let's take a
need
look at
to create a new variable and give it.
What, sorry, we find my headphones on, you gotta touch, or wave, literally can't hear you.
Okay. Or a name to-
No, nothing. I was just saying, like, I need to put a
Here,
variable.
where are you calling
Yeah.
it?
But my suggestion is
So let's look at.
that you come to that
at
because
the-
I don't think that's the way I want to make this. See how you're doing it. Because the for eaching of that should happen in your template and not.
Oh,
Yeah, because you're rendering the user. Remember, you're passing in art, so we need a camera. Or you can do this one. Yeah, this is probably better. You see what I'm saying when you call this function?
Okay, yeah, so here's the thing.
So either store it in the model and use it.
So here's how he's rendering his articles, right? He has the bar source, which is the source.
If you're
And
smart,
he's
in
defining
this
it,
model,
okay. Then he's
which I'm not sure. if
our render template is equal to the template model. So if you've done your templating right, it will display that.
So,
Okay.
so let's see.
Can I see some model?
Okay, so yeah, so now, so there's no.
He doesn't have a vision, okay? But, see, here's my,
Here it is. So, if you also show me. So,
he's not
but
defining
notice,
his
you're not
model as
using
an
the
array.
parameter.
He's just defining it as a single object and then pushing more objects on top of it, which transforms it.
Yeah, but I need to start it because
Right.
See what
I want
happens.
to test.
So,
Loading multiplier, but that's what I wanted to do.
I think that with your template look like, I think that's the problem. Oh, see, he does each,
Oh, that's why.
because he didn't teach us looping. So try in your actual template,
Yeah.
try each. And see if that fixes it. So it would be right under if log if your if statement.
I don't have this.
Yeah, see, that's your second problem, is it's not looking for more. Your template's not looking for more. That's why it's
Maybe.
Handlebars.
Is that, you good?
Yeah, no, like, it makes sense. Thanks, man.
No, that's fine.
Which is probably why.
I know you, yeah, exactly. There's side two of it. Yeah. Fun time.
Yeah, and so what this use does, that's called middleware. And what that's doing is that's adding those headers onto every response. So anytime you need to do something like every response,
Yeah,
you can use like middleware.
which is used, which is almost like a view kind of,
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I mean it's
in an abstract sense, not
Yeah.
exactly, but
it's like, for instance, if you needed to do like authentication on every endpoint. So
Yeah.
if you had a bunch of endpoints, you want to make sure the user is authorized on every one.
Yeah.
You could use some middleware to check before every request, make sure that request is authorized before it's going on to actually do it.
basically you're just sending a GET request to the endpoint with or put or whatever. You're sending a request to an endpoint and you're checking to see if the, with your authentication, you're checking to see if the error code is 200 or if the response code is 200.
Well, this is even before this. This is deciding what response code you should send. Right? So this is basically what middleware does, intercepts the request. And before it runs your function, in this case called Twitter, it's going to do some sort of action before it even runs that function. So it intercepts it.
Oh,
It's
so
itself
I
in
could
the middle.
do, so like, I guess in this case, how would you check authorization? Oh, your own authorization?
You have like requests here, right?
Yeah,
So you can say, like, okay, request header get off or whatever it is.
okay.
And say if that off is valid, continue. Else.
So this
return
is for your own app type off,
Correct.
not somebody else's off. Okay, that was the, where I was just.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see, this is
I
where,
was just giving you an example.
right, like if I wanted to implement on this, like logging in to use, this would be something that I would use and I can connect it with a database like Firebird. And have a list of users and stuff.
Basically, yeah.
And so this is like a,
This is like a before every request.
like
Before
a,
every
it's
response.
like a BIOS. It
Yeah,
checks
it's-
everything else out
Yeah.
until it certain stuff.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to
Sometimes they go, I'm not the worst.
I had a question. I'm trying to add in each, so I can render all the articles. So in here, added a bar, but it's not giving me all my articles.
Does it give you immediately?
Right now,
Okay.
so I don't know whether, I think, I have a feeling my syntax is really wrong.
You getting any errors in the console?
I didn't get any errors.
That doesn't necessarily mean.
So here, so previously I had all the first.
And article is what?
Article is,
In red? Okay, so,
I don't know if this
so look at your template. The actual template. And it should- So, stop here. So what this is saying is, this is expecting that your, the object, the thing that you passed in is an object, and that thing, that object has a key article. But the thing you passed in is an array. So what you should do, you can do one or two things. If you want to leave it as an array, you can use this, which in the template means the thing that was passed in.
Okay.
The other thing you do is you can wrap that thing in another object, and that has a key article.
Yeah. So,
So instead of having a variable article, you can have a variable model.
okay.
And then that model
Equals
is an object.
article.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Colon,
Yeah.
Colon.
right? That's an article. And this has to be inside the object. Article would be.
So this would be
So how do you make an object? And
the
you need each of your articles as an object. Exactly.
so here.
Exactly. And then that object is a key article.
Okay.
Then I make sure to close
Yeah,
it.
right.
Not there. Remember, these things are in your arrays.
an array of
Exactly.
So did you just,
And indentation really helps.
Okay, yeah.
Indentation is one crazy. Yeah, that's fine. Usually, most people will put that article key on the next line. But that's okay.
I happen to do that. And then this is indented.
Yeah, and actually, you can put that. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll add that to second one.
Yeah.
So this is this the, am I doing the right approach?
Yeah, no, this is exactly.
Okay.
This is how I did it.
Okay, I don't know, okay, so this I keep as is here.
Yeah, so, well, no, because now what is the global variable?
Model.
Exactly.
Okay. And then this needs to be each article.
Exactly,
Because
because
they're
you
now
now have a
having
key.
Yes, okay.
Yes, it works.
No, I didn't even have to make a form, I'm just using handle parts.
So you could do it either way. You could do this in your render function as well.
Yeah,
So
so
the for loop and the pen, right?
what can I do here? Like, I would have to, can I do it for each one here, like, let's say.
No, I would. So what you would do is on after that one.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh,
You could just create a for loop through that array that you have in your model.
Okay,
Doing the render.
for each one,
Yeah, and instead of HTML, it would be a pen.
okay. Frank was saying.
I had success. I just want to tell you about it so you don't have to come all the way back here. But I did add a search parameter to the and passed it.
Basically,
Very
nice.
everything.
Wow.
So I actually had
Right.
a working.
So now you can build a UI and start it and create a form, right?
Yeah.
Gives you that response.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then I can use that response in order to start writing my UI.
So,
Like right after.
Yes. The hard part's mostly done as well. No, I say that and watch the UI be the hardest part.
it might be. Yeah.
Guys,
I creep my mind.
Oh, that's great.
search parameters.
You can do that with.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of these.
I need you. I don't do that, by the way.
You're really the rest, yeah, you're gonna do the rest APIs.
Or I could do it with JSON.
That's awesome. How did you do it? Show me.
So
I mean, like high level, because I'm done.
you require Express
Yes.
10, which is Express.
Yes, Express JS.
You get whatever, HTTPS. This is for future use, so I can access it from other, so I can pass it, you know what this is, control origin, access control on origin. If you don't, if you're not, you can see
Oh, gotcha.
So,
So this will allow different parts to choose another.
Right. Basically, I can serve API, yeah, I can serve JSON from different sources.
And you can also serve it to a SQL server or something else.
And
Right. So then, and so basically what it's doing is it's looking at a file.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, it's nice to express.
Basically what it does,
It's like,
is it requires this file, or this file,
it's not like having.
that has this function. What
What
this does is, but anyways, what this does is this does the authentication dialog. Okay, then I get my token, then I set my options here.
feel like you know what you're doing, it's just probably.
This is the path, this is the post.
Like,
The
already
headers are set up
Yeah, I
here,
see that.
this is your off, okay, this is off here, so you have your headers here, so
Yeah, all
ignore
right,
this.
well, I'll let you have that, come back around.
It's fine. It's probably just extraneous options.
Yeah,
Something.
I'm actually. So basically, what you do, so you see this right here, so you're setting your request, so you can, the request dot query dot search. Dot search is created by this, so whatever, if you have a search here,
Yeah.
yeah, that
That's your
parameter is,
custom parent.
Yeah.
Right on.
yeah, so you say your own custom parameter.
You can put in whatever.
Yeah, the only part of this is gonna be changing from a form just a straight up string.
You're like,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
See, like, the actual JSON.
Like spaces or whatever.
Yeah,
there.
so, oh my god,
This
that's,
is what-
it's like gonna involve like
This
registers.
is terrible.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's string, like,
There gotta be a library to do this.
I know PHP has a shit ton, like, if there is a space, then put a number.
Like there's gotta be, there is got to be a JavaScript parameter. So anyways, since you create your custom parameter, now you have the application. Now you have all this, you will respond this. And this is the use data, so this is the profile, image, text, and I'm not getting the defines anymore. It's great. I want to see if I can restrict language. So I'm getting like Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
And Spanish. I'm sure if you can read it, it looks very pretty, and Arabic poetry is some of the best in the world. But I can't read it, so it's not 100% useful.
And usually if it's American, it's probably a plugin image.
So that is a different concern.
We're not going there.
I can.
Here, language, there it is.
All your
There's
settings
language.
that you run. And the server is gonna say, okay, this user is this network. That's what you're returning that.
Yeah.
And once
the
Now we're trying to
basics
figure out,
stuff.
like,
Now
how
you're
you
ready
call
to
the
make So now you can
Okay.
go, okay,
So let's do that.
articles.
So I was trying to set up, I was trying to take the weather setup.
Yeah, me too. Let's-
It's a query parameter. It's the user ID that you got back from that var.
So basically,
And then
the
it's
var
made
weather
that
will
request,
have
it'll give
to
you your current.
So I'm thinking to get URL function data and then you basically take, I mean, this works, but I feel like instead of saying it's weather and you
So
just
zero,
model,
okay, so I
Yeah.
just wanted.
so you would say model ID, but then all of our articles are now, but technically most of them are this array, right? But it's all there.
I think we'll just keep it.
But we would
Well,
still
we'll
create
just
it.
yeah, that's the second one, it's just, it's they're gonna be the models, like the models are contain data, if you want to, you know, it's kind of like, but it doesn't have to, you know, and you can, just in the DOM when you're manipulating it, like let's you add a, to a list, even though the model's here and has data. It'll add it in there.
Yeah,
All the time.
Okay, yeah, so then I started thinking,
Yeah.
that can try to around.
There's also, there's also an unless, which is like if not, right? So I'm trying to say, if something is not true, but not, we can say unless.
Oh, so unless, else, unless.
So do we,
Yeah.
so we don't need to have this
Okay.
model.
It's like
You don't
you
need
have
to
to put that to the game.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah, they try to
That's
put it
also-
in
the.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Huh?
But because we only have one value return, right? This is the language.
Yeah.
They just find us in that.
So it's,
the
I think
article-
just
the
leave it
article
as it
based on
is.
which articles are-
Just
that's
this
the way
way.
to background.
Yeah, just try to get the. That's, I mean, that's
So the
really.
categories are dynamic, so based on what articles that are available. So that there's only like science articles, only science
If it's a syntax thing, I always ask.
and also the select articles, but we know select is based on.
I know, there's some
When
way
you update the list, you can refresh the categories and select. Well, yeah.
Right.
So the categories are based, the data is all based on. So you don't have any control. It's just whatever the server tells us to say. No, the server, yeah, the server, handles the categories all on its own.
Yeah, and then we map.
Basically what happens is we display two, it's basically.
Yeah, that's
when
what
we click on that, and then go up to.
Then we need to figure out what we'll call
See if you're for each or if we
So
I think we can
it's a
move
bit,
to that.
really, I want people to play around with the points a bit. It's useful.
Put it off a little bit, not too much.
Yeah.
Hey Jacob,
Yeah.
do you know the like parsing, okay, two things. One, parse in parameter language, like adding
Break parameters.
the parentheses, 20 spaces.
There's a jQuery function of that called jQuery.lambs, I believe.
And then the second one is, so, actually, so like this, /n is an ampersand. Changing ampersands, that kind of stuff. Here, it's themselves. So you have to take a string, run this on it, and actually display.
I'm unsure of if you put that into HTML, what happens exactly, like it might display. In fact, it's all the wrong words. You can put
Just
HTML.
Just the get
I think it would.
There's an easy way to test it. Because I never. Let's see what I do. So just do like that.
Yeah, just, I'm not sure about the new lines.
No.
This is local.
Basically, you just have to find
Literally
place
just
the
put
new
that
lines
in
and
the,
break tags. So you mean like
you won't even be able to just get the feed.
I would have to do some string manipulation that.
probably.
Like
I mean, there's probably lots of
there's
libraries out
like
there.
substring shit and stuff that I have to do.
Yeah.
There's like
Or
string
it's
places.
fine.
There's a string of like, so you can say, find this
There
character here. There's just like
Yes, okay, I've used that before.
Yeah.
What's the API URL? We have to.
So if you're using it from the server, you can just use the paths. So if you're loading your page from the server, like Sugar, then you can just use the paths in the application. You don't need to put the full URL.
So it's literally like this.
Exactly, just like that. Because it's a relative now, it's relative to the server, which is where the data comes from as well.
But if we are hosting it, we of course have that.
Yeah, exactly. If you're working with an external, you want to just do that. Exactly. Let me get yours.
I really like the APIs. Yeah, I
And then there was no data.
I still need to.
Oh, wait, I'm not on the local website.
Yeah.
And then there was no data.
What'd you do wrong? Just kidding.
Right.
Oh,
So
That's
see that
okay.
Jess?
Really?
Sweet Jess right there. Come on.
So maybe because I don't have.
Yeah, I was just talking about the and same thing. The way that we
If you're calling.
adding interest.
You have to go. Did you put the end?
So if the user to put
You're super fast.
to the browser, you know. So if you click policies, interest,
Talking shit about someone's life.
that should do, that should make
Right.
post request.
I'm on fire. You're on
Yeah.
fire. Yes.
So when you, come back,
How did you
then.
get your data?
Those things should show up. You just listen to recap till now, the request to categories and feed.
Do the template? Did you compile it? Did you add an each loop in the template yourself?
So.
Oh. You gotta do that stuff.
So.
So he has already. So basically what you're gonna do,
do.
yeah, you should do the model.
In the, I did what.
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
You did the same thing.
Did you add the each in your HTML? Did you add the each tag in
Oh, yeah,
your script HTML?
So.
If you have anything in your model.
Until you use it, now we need to move this get articles. into a place
that
where they
data
know
post,
they've logged
you
in.
can't see it.
Because it was workplace we know.
And that would be the reason why.
So I can find it up here.
So we got,
We got rid of the record.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not worried about legal speed.
That ultimate debug tool that we learned in 2 classes ago.
Listen, okay.
My sass. My sass. I got a lot of sass going on here, don't I? Sorry, I'll unsass it. What compiler do I need to uninstall to unsass?
Go.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, I'll uninstall Gulp so I can no longer sass.
Or grunt. What lovely names, right?
Yeah, I'll ungrunt or Gulp so I can't
It's the
sass anymore.
most amazing name ever. Like, you can talk.
This is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can just do that.
This is awesome. Everybody. Everybody's
When we were trying on a group chat.
Sure, because the email address loads these things.
It's like, so yeah, the name of the model or. Yes.
Alright, okay. Yeah, or if it's
Yes. Not only requesting English tweets, got
so
got like different.
you log in, what is it, email address?
If you think about it, right, think about what is rendered in each
So let's look at the, does this get article?
category. So I need to do an actual that I need to do an actual. Yeah, so you just.
What are you gonna use to render?
It's really just like, it's like lightning, the actual,
It's
you're not rendering everything each time.
Because here's the thing, though, like I tried to call my,
It's an issue,
I
like,
tried to call it, I mean, I tried to create
Absolutely.
instead of an anonymous one, it's not.
Down here, in the browser,
Yeah.
look at the network.
Query what you have.
You're telling me that if I need to pull it out, you figure it's what it was.
Oh, what it was before, yeah, so I had the document ready at the very top.
So far, let's just enter these apps. Now when we log
I
in.
wonder though, so
When
when
you log in,
we, suppose we have the article as
so
a
it's
model,
all single objects.
and so the article is an object, right?
Sorry,
So let's see what that is.
Do we need that anymore?
it's the article, please ask them.
Yeah, because then maybe it should just be, var instead of model, it should be var article.
Yeah.
No, you're right, no,
Here it is.
I don't know what to do.
This
Should it be model as article?
Transition.
These are
Especially when you're trying to get
partial
to objects inside of this model.
That's what we put here. So in the var model, we have this as the,
So instead of saying
Yes.
console,
which is,
model.article.title.
okay, so that's what we do.
Yeah. And you have better codes.
yeah.
Alright, so that, let's just do it, it's just faster.
Well, but my thing's also. You have to relook at.
I mean, I would just copy the top
Alright, well,
article.
let's set a break point and then bring it back.
Okay, that works too.
Yeah, it works.
Alright.
Yeah. I noticed that other
Then again, I thought you wanted my help, so.
I do want your help, you just helped us, thank you, thank you.
Remember, because that's line 58.
So, because we wanted to just change the class line.
So,
It's not. Try out what you're trying to call.
Yeah, Yes.
Yes.
Literally generating.
Yes.
So you see the date is time minus 4. And that must have been the, yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
What I did.
Yeah, and then response back to the user right then.
Yes.
The server is going to send you a real.
I but I don't.
So you said,
I think it's what I'm saying.
now.
I want to create like how we have it. I want it to where this template is out here, because I don't want to constantly be so tired.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Yeah.
like,
Make it just
you're
separate,
searching,
like
like,
we
you're
did,
gonna call for the right, whatever interest, that's great. If you're a character, it's slots, or question mark, it's a user ID in capitalized, or microphone, you're gonna have to put that equals, the ID mark. So, you're gonna have to, put that in.
See how here whether you're actually.
Yeah.
So that's
So I don't understand why.
So it'll be.
Okay, so, alright, so it's sitting in our.
Yeah.
But it'll be.
You keep going, as long as you slack me that, I'll be worst case.
Let's see what.
I mean,
You probably know that.
I'm not
I don't.
confused.
No, I would ask them.
That's not exactly the issue, but the issue here is that I'm supposed to be unexpected.
Should have been the inside a documentation.
But we were passing in, right, so it has only the index. So we can change this in humble, try to make it categories.
Why did it work for weather?
Is this correct sentence?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The other is supposed to be employees.
Yeah.
Analyze gives
Yeah.
you keyword this. That means the thing that's happening. This means the thing that you pass.
Like this has no,
Which is.
that I use the exact same concept, and it's telling me that template is not,
That is really.
yet on the other one, it's
So definitely
one
put
hundred
in
percent, right? And that's literally a copy.
Oh, it is here, 19.
Another option is to just illustrate. Another option.
Is that the closest type or something?
You see what I did? Exactly. Because what it's looking for, when you say each category, it's looking for a key.
I see. So it's all. Yeah, I just.
Yeah.
I get so confused about what.
Then we have to.
Yeah. It's only the first only.
Okay.
So, and then once you get into each, it's looking at the keys of those, each of those items.
So you don't mind telling me what security things is.
This is not Sublime. This is Adam.
It's gonna be our
So
college.
is this.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime we use those parameters.
No.
We can take our model, right? So, one of the little things. If you're using else, you use because you also don't really know the so I'm just saying. I think it closes it as well. So, yeah,
So it's rendering, it's like giving me, but I don't know if I don't think I have the correct parameters like in slide. So let me select this. Oh, okay. I wanted to do it. No, I didn't do the right thing.
So like, if I want, yeah, and I think that's. Get and then to set up.
Well, it looks like, so you just, slash.
Yeah. Right, so, you know, if you remember, if you look at the live version,
So when first
If I go back, that's the thing, actually, now I don't have a red.
it doesn't show any categories, it's in like.
And if I go through it, actually.
That's actually when you're
done.
in here, it's once you. This is not rendering, you have to in this setup, like they took this.
So you pass it, I believe you pass it an object.
So they did before.
So like,
No.
Yes.
So we just.
Here.
Very small.
Yes, cool.
Okay, so I'm getting a JSON parser. You're expecting a JSON input when trying to in my trends. So and I know it's here, so it's failing on the OAuth function here, which is the requiring of this, and I exported it this way, and it's failing on the reading of this. But if I just run this file itself and get rid of this function in this export, okay, and just run this, it does not fail.
Okay, let me see, there.
And I know it's on the file itself. It's,
Okay, guys, some trends on the page.
I wonder,
So post requests, think about what this is fundamentally, what's the piece?
Oh, yeah.
What are you trying to do with
So trying to
because
give
this,
That just
requires, this is what required this open streams to say. So here's my record, so here's trend. It's dot slot. That's not the right experience.
So we're just focusing on that.
Because if I'm requiring a file that
These
is,
things we use in all.
oh, but I did that last year as well. Or did you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I
But
can
like,
require juice.
Scroll down for some.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't like it. So then I have to,
Yeah, I'm used to that. That's fine. So what, I guess,
it's like,
we miss it here with this.
so I know it's based on.
So
Yeah,
you-
so it's- okay,
The entire
so
thing
the
is-
problem is in this file.
Yeah,
What I was trying to do was go back to this.
does it need a dot slash
you
there?
have to find
How do
any.
you try that?
That's what I.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I have, maybe I have it.
So.
Right.
Where's that optimization?
Seems like
Here, all of this stuff.
off there.
Okay.
That's there.
It's like, for example, if you notice, if you go.
So what I'm saying is you will, you will type something in, hit login,
See how nothing's there.
get, send the data from what's typed in.
Is that in the file?
So you're not giving any of that. Instead, you're simply posting the login.
Okay, how do I?
But that's, that's
Um,
their favorite.
The short answer is the best way, like, obviously, asking you to file or
Like
not
you're
use it.
translating the entire site.
Very. That makes sense.
So this is weird.
That's no problem finding this. You can pass in any data
Yeah, I mean, sure.
in a.
Maybe like copy that
Yes.
file, put it in JSON validator, just make sure it's okay. I don't know.
Yes.
When
You
you
see how
try to
you
use
add,
the file
you see how
stream
you
to load
just get
it,
requested,
then
pass
you
it
know it's file.
names, like.
Or you can try to acquire it instead of file stream.
So you could basically set like a bar, but
So
login
in
URL.
one file,
Yeah, and then
you
you add
require
that together and then just
here
pass
you're
it.
requiring this,
Yeah,
and the other one you're using a file stream.
yeah.
So you can try to switch.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is it failing there? I bet you it's failing your, because this isn't closed. The file stream isn't closed. Do you think? That was my first thought, is that because it's trying to do both, right?
Yeah.
That it's failing
Documentation flows.
but because this doesn't fail because it's not trying to write to it, right? It's just ending the process, which I assume default closes the file stream. Do I make sense to manually write in the close of that to the file stream
Here,
here?
the username, you pass in
I
the
don't think so.
parameter, with the key.
I would-
Also, what does pipe mean?
So go back to your user, because you do get, that's the actual, right, you have to send data again.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it's trying to do it into that file.
So go back to that. I'm sorry, it's not that. This.
Yeah.
So look at how it gets the data. Lines 46 to 48. What's the unique data?
Yeah, that's trying to send a response to.
Yeah, we've got the same country, but in theory, it's trying to information, right? Yeah, has this already.
No.
Information
No.
request.
That's your, I think you're misspeaking here. So we're giving it parameters that the API uses, and because of that, because of what we give it, right? It then knows, it then can give us data back. So it doesn't already have that, it has the data corresponding to it's nothing to give it.
Yeah, it's doing what you need, it's back to the file.
Does that make sense?
So
Like
a lot of
if you,
these,
it doesn't
it's
know
the way around.
what user ID gives back, it's
Send response.
right? When I log into something, I have to give it my username, give it my password, then it returns all my specific username. So here, it's saying, it's just saying it's inclusive. I have written this,
Perhaps, I mean, I don't know if that's.
loss. Yeah, London, comma, UK.
Yeah.
It doesn't give it that specific information, it doesn't know what, but like, so to say that it has that already is.
It's not, use history right now, so.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm saying really.
Can I just send Slocky the code, check, Polygon?
Yeah.
If you want to write it there, exactly, or pass it through the URL variable of and just do. So, yeah.
Alright, thanks.
Yep.
Has to be where I user. I'm not able to get any. I'm getting this.
So username is the thing that you got out of out of where the text is. That's what you want to get. So make sure that this is the ID. Would you make it? Where you're actually trying to
Moving the remodel, yeah.
Okay.
If you guys see the error.
It is.
So if you just look at your HTML.
So it's a standard class of doing
So here's, this is the form we actually get. So it's the same, show this if they're logged in, show this if they're not.
Oh, there we go. Interest.
So you should default with this. You want to make it for the top stuff.
You're
What is?
that looks off. I mean, that just looks like you're reassigning the art links.
Yeah, I didn't see the map, but we have to like.
So then once we have that, then we use that to make our point is like,
It seems like certain categories.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So this would so you have to look up that post, there's different than that. So that if you're reading that post, you're posting something or putting something up there. So you scroll down,
So you probably just want to suspend it.
you actually can take three things or some data, some text, which is our user. And then let's see, so it takes the three arguments and it's function, yeah,
That's very key. Here.
Okay, so okay, so what we need to do is we can find HTML. So it's an either classroom, so we need to actually see. Okay, that's
It already isn't. What?
So figuring it out, And then on the left side, we can call it. So there's this function that we can do. And also use this is potential itself. So now
I'm gonna make sure now.
Okay.
You're not getting anything. I don't know why.
It's
Renders.
So like I'm able to show this,
Oh, that is 4 not found? Why?
So you serve one.
Tomato one.
I'm writing it.
No.
Is it running on 4:30?
30.
So why are you trying to give brackets and stuff? That's not even
Where it goes?
As is falafel.
Yeah. I'm just answering falafel. If you want to.
You see what it's throwing again?
I will eat it all in 10
Just think
seconds.
4 not found.
I know, let me see all the corners.
And that was so bad. That was worse. Like, I make some bad jokes. Come on, man.
Don't do it, don't. I'm trying to recover.
That should be made.
Yeah, I'll get it in a second.
ID?
Exactly.
These are just leftovers. These are leftovers.
No, it just says get articles.
I wouldn't eat them.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanna know what articles.
I bet you.
It says get feeds. Get feed.
Parameters, user ID. User ID is personalized to me. You have to pass the user ID.
So in my model, I have to add the user ID and like the.
You have to do the login first, because the login creates the user ID. Then you have to store it by putting, okay? Immediately, the first thing you fucking do.
I don't.
Because if you don't do that, then the server has no reference to what the hell you're talking about.
Okay.
So here's model, here's model.
So like, you shouldn't show any articles at all until they log in. Because if you look at the finished example, he doesn't show mine.
Yeah, until, see, I was just trying to load articles, but I was wrong about the whole model itself.
But factually, that's.
Yeah, they're so far away.
So you're on the API stuff. All you gotta do is go to the
See, that was good stuff. At least I had the ED written left. Come on.
And then I just have to put user ID here, like, plus 19. it's a parameter, it's a question mark, right? Equals. So like this. So we need all the way like 4, so we have the render anyway to do the render.
No, you have to actually let me finish it.
I am the bearer of bad news. The worst.
It's okay, we can, you know what?
You don't.
I just have to rinse and repeat.
Don't even try.
You're sweetheart, don't worry, you're good too.
Jackass.
Fine.
It's good. Glad.
So do we create a script in the create a new script instance or do we? Right, we should.
Very I don't know if I can do
Okay, I was on full out.
I can't even get. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was like, we're just saying that, because we missed the whole thing. We're almost having.
Which I can't do because I read the article. Because I was on user ID.
See, that's the thing, the articles, where are the articles coming from? They just, they have.
You should.
Yeah,
You
that's
should not have any default articles, right? So basically, when you throw that ID, so basically your user parameters start out default, no preferences. Those are your parameters, right? That user profile and have no interest in. So when they log in, you're setting that profile. So basically what you, these preferences should be zero. So basically what it does, when you create randomizing the user ID, it's going to create a profile with a model with no options. Okay, so then you can run the articles, because when it tries to call the articles, it's going to show no interest and nothing to show up. So you're going to get the first call, right? And the callback function. If you don't do this right, it's not possible to use the call. So like you're not going to error. So you got to put that you have to have the call. So you call the wall. Crazy. And as soon as that's done, call back to don't. Your article, you don't question master. That's your call back. Then you render the articles. Great.
The article's not showing it, now you start wondering.
So now we have those categories shown. So the categories, right? It's all one. Okay. So that should just be hard coded. It should be called. The preferences are hard coded. Yes, they're there, but they're all unhighlighted.
Got it, okay, that makes sense. I thought you were saying nothing miracle.
Well, when I first logged into it, it's like, you take the print off and nothing shows up.
That wasn't it, but it's still there. Yeah. Let's send you a slide ordering for it.
So like, in a sense here, if you're not logged in, there's nothing.
So actually what it's doing is putting a statement above the article section and above the preferences section. So
Really, all I ever get is Amsterdam,
So
it's Quattro,
that model, and it will try to render that in the template. Basically, your model should be looking for whether or not it's logged in.
It's logged in and show if it's happening.
Right.
We need to put that
Oh.
in our model.
Sorry, you need to put that Boolean in your model as well as make sure that your user template is looking for the oriented guy.
Because I'm trying to load with forcing.
No, it's not asking.
And it didn't say you can because the feed ID, the dash feed plus user ID.
There's one more.
Otherwise you're not gonna load anything. User ID plus interest, and then you load. That's similar to the other app. Because we have to create a custom variable that allows.
Okay.
So quarter Russian
If
add.
this interest.
So I think we did about here. Okay.
So we need to make content.
Yeah. So now that's some book.
My dad will look at it.
Okay.
But there's one dish he never made my whole childhood, I made it once, and now he makes it all the time. I couldn't eat this my whole life. It's like a beef and herb stew, it's ridiculous.
Oh God. It's an infinite loop.
Okay, so your templates.
Oh, God, sure. Yogurts, yeah, yogurts, soda.
Oh, that is.
So gross.
And it's expecting that object to have.
Yeah, my relatives tell me, it's all they do, I'll pull it in Iran.
So that's what that means.
So all day, right?
Doesn't make it taste as better.
Whatever the value is.
Maybe yogurt should be brand, period, but like the fizziness is really off-putting.
Well, they put like dill in it, and it's just.
If you pass it in array by
My
itself,
dad knows it very much.
it doesn't have any features, so it doesn't know what to do before. So you do this.
Yes, like
one way. The thing that gets.
It's how champagne.
It's called this. So you can change article. So when you're calling your template, pass in. Everything is based off this. Yeah, you need to, you have to.
Yeah, it's done, but
Right, not both.
I haven't had to work.
So now
I
this.
might have to do it next weekend. Let's see.
So you know, actually.
I mean, I wouldn't like, probably would like it last night to work weekends, but.
So let's put it.
I'll take it. Yeah, higher. What would be so pleasant?
Separate this.
Six. They made it in the discussion.
So far, we made some fun, so we have a roll. Go ahead.
Yeah, like, someone was gonna use our site as well.
Create source.
I was told that, right, yeah, we look.
So the template is a function.
Like, so you wouldn't tell you.
Information, look over here. See, wait, now. That's all that. So you must be out of this line of
Someone will explain to me why oh. I am so tired. I can barely see.
Now it's about that's why we gotta use these debugging tools.
Right.
To do it line by line, figure out where's the problem. Yeah. Beautiful. Good problem. One second.
Oh, really? That's one same thing.
Yeah, so, so the competition. There's two ways. One way would be these things
No,
have
I'm not exhausted. I've been coding all day. It's not working. Can I help you? Is this
Transmit. I love it. It's great.
It's like a plane.
It's all, yeah, it's all of us. I love this. This is my favorite because you can set all the file preferences, the loads, the line, or your supply skin. Yeah. So you can do preferences.
It's a third one.
Oh, it's not working, so we figured out that
So you need more Sublime text windows open. You don't have enough.
more tabs.
No, she has like 6 Sublime text.
Like, I'm trying to reference back to some.
That's for your imaginary meetup.
So, I recognize that we were supposed to start.
Do we have to, the user, do you recommend we create an object with an array inside or like what I have article here? So it's like the model has the different parameters. Do you recommend we do this?
Yeah, so the way that the API is.
Well, you probably wouldn't do user ID and then ID.
Okay, so it's user.
So you're probably would to be user and like ID, name, all that crap. Yeah.
So there's multiple.
I guess you could do ID. You could do user ID within it if you wanted to be specific, right? Like, you know.
I guess that we don't really, because we're not going to be doing the ID, right? Model. ID.
And then.
Like as far as rendering out.
Yeah, like this
Yeah,
is-
you're not going to render the ID, so you can still put it in there if you want.
Yeah, I'll just do it like this one now.
Yeah, it's,
And then I still not. I guess I can say I need to.
Oh, I didn't put that in already. I'm a loser.
Right, so it's always you have like all of your law regardless of what's otherwise. And then you have another character.
Right, well, so first I'm trying to make sense, yeah.
Well, you know, speaking of truth, no idea.
So that you might render that, but aspect.
Yeah.
So let's run your user.
So then you're saying, so that's how you need
And for
so, and I just apply.
it's still getting the same issues.
Well, no, because we turned it into HTML, it has no link.
yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Right, it's basically a useful block of code. Plug in, like plug in the name that you have and render it the exact amount of time.
have
Probably make it.
three pages, right? So you had a page that needed 10 articles, like, you know.
Did you specify the correct class for it to?
And one article,
So.
Yeah, so I just did. Yes, it's not the. Just be like that.
Okay, cool, yeah.
It should, if you put the name, it should. Maybe, oh, but we need maybe to.
You're not gonna be philosophy?
No. And,
Can you say what was happening, say the user already took the timestamp plus.
It's gonna return that, your API calls in return the user ID to sign in.
Okay, so once I put my name in, the API handles that, but how does it do it?
you won't have to worry about this.
It does it with the response. So you gotta add a parameter in your API and all its response.
Yeah,
Basically,
so that
someone
you
has to submit.
Yeah.
So, something like, we need like the button.
Yeah, there is
There's
no-
no button.
So that means you need to go write it in. I don't think you guys have written it in.
Oh, there's more.
Let me just do it.
Oh, you know,
What were you gonna say?
You're reading the same word.
I know.
Where's this?
So now what we need to do is, we need to
Where's this next?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my question. I don't know what they're saying. Why is it Apache dumb? Why is it dumb? Why is it Apache dumb?
I have no idea.
So that
Should I let that one on the cutting room floor?
that becomes
This is why,
available.
this is why I did it differently.
So it's like, if
So I like restarted my data wrapper, figuring out like, you
I
know,
don't do it,
this is why I changed the server and into an to serving static files express server.
Yeah,
we actually need to
the
have
Apache's big. It's hard to get out.
here because
I hate
once
my,
someone's logged in, it's gonna show the username, so if logged in, just show the username.
Yeah. Yes, I may send like part of the solution tonight. So like, yeah, we'll probably continue on this.
Also, okay.
That is, this is support for but then we may spend time.
Oh, to viewing, to hide.
Right, you can toggle it something.
Yeah.
Oh, so, no, this was my tip. So I took what was up here,
Oh,
and
you're
now I'm just gonna delete it. Well, I think so, because that's how you submit it, because they have to do the. That's what the users, the user information is inputted, but then it's utilizing.
So this here, the login container. Is that what
You're on the right track.
No, I basically just
It has a few like syntax.
Yeah, I asked it,
that are going.
it says if not logged in.
And I wonder if, first I think let's see if we can get create a new function. So we need to do something like, I'm assuming on the controls, before we get on our knees, like, on, so that's the first thing. On line 31, on that login, so use,
Are really trying to assign the value of the ID to something, to some user. But what you're doing there is trying to assign the value of the user's ID
at
from.
So now I have to connect the
You're putting it into that user reference.
And now he's going to somehow figure out
like a little question.
how to do it. So I was trying to basically take that out.
So from the form,
Yeah.
Was it rendering?
Yeah, we were there, I was like, oh, I'm through there, so I added this. And I
So, resources. So, if you look back, what is this data? It's an object. Okay? Alright, so go back to the code. Okay, so this function that we pass as the successful it gets a parameter. The parameter it gets is that object. So you can call it whatever you want, but generally it's going to be. Okay? So what we assign to this ID is data dot. Exactly.
I see.
Were you calling it?
I exactly.
Exactly. This becomes that data parameter gets fed in with the data that comes back.
So then we say ID.
Exactly.
And then success is the data.
Success is just whether they name that parameter. It's not really. Okay. No, I mean, like, they may be, like, at some point, you may want to split it out into something like instead of a nominator. But for now, it's still, now, if you look back at this slide, what is this? Okay, go back to your code.
I was writing this.
What is the data for the question?
Yeah, alright.
So this data that we post needs to be an object. Because right now we're just posting a string, and we need to actually put an object.
Yeah, it's for the
So you can just get it here.
and then I have to name it and log in and just. That's as far as I got.
And now that's a keyword.
I was like, oh wait, I was just.
No, if you look over here, it tells you what key it is. So the username, it needs a value, so that makes sense value. When we're creating an object, so we assign the value to key, we can call it. And then space, and then a variable. Yep. And then close the object. Yeah.
So it's basically saying.
Yeah. Mhm.
That is function. Okay, that makes sense. So whatever this is, basically whatever. This is not.
Exactly. And if the response is an object, we can assume data is an object.
Is this a separate one? This is a separate.
Yeah, so data was the input.
So I need to make my.
If you were making inputs, yeah, which you are. Okay, now this one. Notice the dollar sign up close, that function doesn't return.
Yeah.
Out here to use its data, it's constant. Yep. So same thing with it. It doesn't return anything, so you can't assign interests. You have to do it inside of the So everything to the left of the dollar sign here, you can do it. And then inside of this function, data callback, that's where we actually assign interests. No, you had it right. Well, you might want to do and inside of that function, yeah, that's actually what you assign. Interesting. So then we got that concern.
Yeah.
Finally, when you do this, you got a sign, which is something you can calculate something. So, let's take a look at this. This here, it needs a query parameter called user ID that has the value of the registry. So when you do the code, so we need to add user ID. Query. And see query parameter value and then the ID. Because that's a variable. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, same we've done.
All right, so we're almost at 9:30. This is a substantial lab, so I know that probably nobody finished, which is totally cool. I'm going to tonight send out sort of like a first iteration hint. It's not going to be the full solution, but it'll be like, you know, the templating stuff, maybe a little bit more that you can reference. Don't copy it directly. Reference it and try to, you know, build it yourself. And get as far as you can this weekend. I don't expect you to finish it completely over the weekend. And on Monday, or you know, a little bit before class, I'll send out some more of the solution. And then finally on Tuesday, we'll spend the first bit of the class going through the rest of the solution together. Okay? But this weekend, work on it, get as far as you can, and then submit that using the pull request model that we do for all the homeworks. Just as far as you get. And then on Tuesday, we'll actually spend some time together kind of deconstructing this. Because it is a substantial lab, and there's a lot going on here. But you shouldn't be discouraged because we have all the tools for this. Are there any questions before we dismiss for the day? All right. Please, before you leave, feel free to stick around for a while. I'm going to hang out until everybody leaves, but before you do leave, please fill out the exit ticket. How do I do that, Paul? Do I just type in exit ticket? Yeah. So before you leave, please do that, but no rush.
It's class 14 lab.
Oh yeah, class 14.
Or if you figured out that the exit ticket is the same every single time.
Yeah.
You scroll up and ask them.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
No, so you're fine.
Just trying to hide them.
Even though we know the added them back, that we like got rid of them out.
Okay, well, it's, you're not getting there, so it's, let me just refresh my this. All right, let's celebrate. Celebrate.
Yeah.
Alright, fine.
Boom. Those are all statistics called from my API, from the front end. Yes.
Okay, so just set one there, and just make something on this function.
If you want, I'm probably gonna be around this weekend, so if you want to come in.
Yeah, let me figure out Saturday, I'm going on a trip,
Oh.
so
So, let's see.
Charlottesville.
Virginia, where I am, so it's travel.
Charlottesville, but what I might do is, if I get stuck on certain stuff.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
Her, I think he has all of them correct.
Would you?
Well, I know, but.
Who are you?
That's right, that's right, that's what I thought. That's what I
Oh,
thought.
you're gonna be on a boat on Saturday, so.
This is true.
Yes.
Oh, so much further.
Yeah.
So much further.
Oh.
excited.
So I mean, this is just like, pass it down.
You're not excited for
I'm very excited. I'm sorry.
You're just like, oh, that's Craig. Who's that guy?
Yeah.
Who I
Today, Tuesday or Thursday?
It's Thursday. It's gonna be Thursday.
Day it is anymore.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So let's try this right away.
Can believe I've been staring at IDE from 7 o'clock this morning. That is not good. So,
All of our residents trying to help. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good weekend.
Ready, I'll thank you.
Let's save stuff.
Yeah, buddy.
see you later. And no, seriously, congratulations. I want to know more. How is this fun? Okay.
Okay, I think I know what's going on. So remember that everything in this company, when you have this dynamic data inside of these curly braces, it's looking for a key, an object that passed in.
So it's not in, let me see. Here, my articles.
So I mean, if that's the article that you, if that's the object you pass in, then yes, it has to be in there. You make a bigger object that has not only the articles in it, but also the lock-in state. Put everything in one big object, and then that's the whole object. You do that, and then you have to move the thing.
Yeah.
So, multiple ways to do this. There's another thing you could do, is just like right before you put the article object into the clip, you just insert your object into that object. So you could do like article index I dot logged in is equal to the login from the global, and then you pass that in. There are lots of different ways to do this stuff.
Great.
But everything in the template is going to be reliant on whatever you pass in.
Thank you.
Huh?
Any other questions? I heard my.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you. With my code,
Yes.
Right, so-
I'm here on Monday.
I'm sort of like, I was to work, but.
No,
Then-
it's I'm really very, it's like, all this stuff, it's. Yeah. It's on the. It's in the.
I totally misunderstood.
Is this
your
okay? Good.
design.
Alright, so then.
I was like, yeah, I'm trying to find the articles as it is not the user, but.
Okay, so, I did, so I really know it's lunch right now.
Yes.
You know.
So I need to pass.
Yeah, they were good.
The user ID. The query rate is, but then, I don't know, I just got like.
Yeah, so remember when we were, the weather requirements are really good.
So,
Yeah, so here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, fine, it's just like.
Marijuana.
Like, no, this isn't working. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually
So
just
here-
like, oh yeah, same
Yeah.
Yeah, just this.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, this is good. So now you just need to find how these are so here.
But
Yeah.
does it need to be an object? I don't know, I'm not. So the way I put them is when it showed up, I had them, I took them, I sort of, and I had these options.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not, it depends on how the data.
Kids have those, right?
Oh, because.
do I need to change it to an object? Do we like go through each one or something?
I've been having a hard time,
But this is just the same thing with this thing with the login. I'm having a hard time figuring out what format is that this thing to show up. And I'm definitely getting
Yeah.
better, but I'm still,
yeah, like,
yeah. Before it was like disaster. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of getting
okay,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, I think I see what So let's try to finish this. You put in the height.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Let's see what we can get for it. So what I'm seeing is it looks kind of like it's really the same template, even though. Yeah, what we're probably gonna need is a separate template for the because what we're using is the same article content that we're trying to do. It is, but right now, we've only created to put the notes on it in the article. We need a different one, with notes on it in the same. Yeah, exactly.
So,
In other words,
so
the name you made, because if you use the same name, you know, you're gonna look for items. So they call one article template, category template.
out of the.
So there's no. Yeah, that's probably right. I will.
But, yeah, so it doesn't need to be a so whatever. So you can beginning. And then pass that variable, like, to that account to. So, it's like, here,
You, like, when you do that, you see, like, here's the level. It's like yeah.
Oh, I know, I'm not.
Yes, this is a problem I talked about in
class, because I know
when we first started doing our work. Printers, those, we can
see, they're not my God, the first one, we won't need to, yeah, once you do it once, you won't need to do it again. Okay, Jacob.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to explain to, one space for all.
Yeah.
How you're taking the response body and generating that into like the actual.
To the articles, categories.
There are categories, yeah.
So there are, as far as like rendering things go, there are only two main points that you really care about for rendering things. The first is the getting of the categories, right? Because the categories tell you how to render those things up there. And the second one is the feed. So you can get the feed to tell you how to render a lot of things. The other endpoints, you're only going to be using them to modify those two things. So when you say, for instance, a user clicks a category, you'll add that category as an interest, and then you can just reload the categories. And they will have that updated selected so it's part of it. So if we look at the categories import, so it has a name when you make this request, the date that comes back is going to be this value.
So that should be in the this one, and not this one.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I was confused because I thought it was something else. Right, yeah. That makes more sense now. I was
Yeah.
like, why is it coming back that way?
Yeah. I was trying to, I think, I'm going to read this, I think every endpoint is potentially, when you only actually use a subset of them. You're not going to use everything. So you're only going to be using the interests and the bookmarks for update. You don't actually care about using those things ever. Because when you update them, it's going to update the feed and the categories respectively.
Okay, so you need to, you can get those responses by creating.
What's that?
I'll say hit these for if it's selected. And put them here.
Exactly.
Alright, so just use that. If it's selected, do this else. If it's selected, add it to button else, add it as a button else.
Or really, you could say it's something, have this class.
Oh, yeah, because they're all there.
They're all there.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I might be confused.
Yeah,
I didn't know you didn't have any on Saturday. They got to see I had it yesterday, yeah. You're gonna get like,
extra on Sunday.
you're gonna get like bombarded.
Yeah.
No, it's okay, I mean, I'll be back next week. We're gonna get something else. Going to Seattle, being a random vacation. You're from Seattle. But I've been here for a couple of years, I'm a visitor, but I never made it. Yeah, this is the only time that I will ever be able to go to Seattle for this Jeep, because my best friend from college, she's from there, but she's a law student